like to ask everyone to make sure your cell phones are either off or on mute, please. Then we're going to welcome David Blow and his class of is it journalism?
Introductory journalism, yep.
Welcome you guys to the meeting, and hopefully you pick up some jewel of knowledge before you leave here tonight. And we're going to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
Been moved and seconded, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to ask for approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from 4/8/24.
Second?
Been moved and seconded, any discussion?
I didn't have any corrections this week.
I didn't find any.
Bob, you all set?
I believe I'm all set, yes. I just want to confirm that Mark will be able to attend the Rutland County Solid Waste District meeting.
On Wednesday, May
Facebook.
1st. Correct? Wednesday, May 1st?
I think he dropped off, I let him back in.
Hopefully he wasn't driving.
Bob, can you still hear us?
I remember you discussed date and time, but I don't remember what
I have it here Wednesday.
Robert, you there?
6:30.
Oh, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Allison wasn't logged in yet, so under the approval of the agenda, who made the motion second?
I made the motion.
I seconded.
Thank you.
Same for the minutes.
Yep, got it, thank you.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Mark?
Thank you.
Are we all set to call the question?
Mary Lee's coming in.
All right, you all set?
I'm all set.
Bob, are you all set? I'm going to call the question. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. Citizens' comments and concerns, items not on the agenda. Go ahead, Mary. What's your name, Mary?
Mary McIntyre, Castleton, Vermont. So, unless I've missed something, I'm just curious what the update would be on where we're at with the Castleton Village School. You know, I had heard rumors that another town, Hubbardton, may be buying us their share out. We may have bought Hubbardton their share out, but I haven't heard.
The only thing I can tell you on that one at this point is that Hubbardton and Castleton have agreed upon a number, a price, and Hubbardton Select Board put the notice in the paper over 30 days ago now, right?
Yeah, I can update you, I got updates today.
All right, well, then I'm going to defer to Mike.
Perfect, thank you.
So as of today, I received a word from our attorney that they are working on the paperwork that's needed for conveyance of the property. And the details of it, since it's not finalized, I'm not going to dive into the details of it, but they've agreed and the town's agreed to convey. Their voters didn't oppose it, so there was no petition, so it was able to go through. So attorneys are just hashing out the paperwork part of it right now, so we should have something. I don't want to give you an exact timeline because we're still trying to find some documents, but probably within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, that's good, because I hadn't heard anything, and as you well know, I'm around people who are very enthusiastic about recreation and love this town, and so they asked if they'd missed something, and I said, why? I hadn't seen anything. And I am talking up, trying to get people to work on fields, and I think we'll be able to round up some pretty good people to help out. So, all right, good news, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Anybody on Zoom? Any hands up?
No hands up, anybody? Bob, Are you lost, Bob? You there? You're unmuted. I think you lost him. Mary Lee, can you hear us?
Yeah, Allison here.
Allison was talking, so I'm assuming.
Yes, I can. But
Can you hear me?
Bob
Can you
and
hear me now?
Mary Lee.
Got you, Bob.
Bob's on mute.
We've got Bob and Mary Lee. I'm not sure. Mary Lee, you're muted. I don't know if you, like, *6 or something like that to unmute.
Well, let's move on. And Chief Mantello, you're up.
Okay. Good evening, board.
Good evening, Chief.
All right, let's go over the monthly report from March 2024. So, you've had these, so we had total calls of 572. You can see the breakdown. Nothing really stands out, it's pretty consistent. That's kind of what we average every week. Are there any questions on a particular call, a service, or anything that you want to know about?
I have one question, Chief.
Yes, Bob?
Community outreach, can you just touch on what community outreach is?
Absolutely. So the community outreach could be a couple things. Could be the food outreach that we do. It also could be speaking to a specific group about something. I don't know the exact what these are, but that's usually what those are.
Okay, it's just down like, with 15 in February and only 3 in March.
Yeah, those was the food delivery. These three here probably were not food delivery. I know I did one speaking engagement with listed there. I don't know what the other two were.
Okay.
Chief, on that, are those community engagements, are those the senior center visits too?
No, I don't actually count those actually at anything. I just kind of go there. But they can be.
I would encourage the select board, if you could, attend any of the Friday morning coffee hours. It's 9 to 11 at the community center. There is a pretty good, when they have waffles, the day they're having waffles, there's better attendance.
Yes, the waffles are very good.
But it's just, there's a lot of residents in there that just like to chat it up and ask questions. So if you're available with somewhere between 9 and 11 on a Friday, they'd probably love to see it. The staff from the office and department heads are starting to go there once a month and showing our face and be able to answer any questions they have.
So that's every Friday?
Yeah, from 9 to 11, they have food there, coffee, tea, juice. They play games, mahjong, which is something I just learned like when I first came here. The Chinese game that I had no clue what they were doing, but they were good at it.
One of the games they played, and he failed it. He didn't want to tell you this, but it was putting M&Ms in alphabetical order. And he failed it.
Nice, thank
Well,
you.
Army guys, they have a hard time with things.
Yeah, I know. We like to stay on land. Absolutely.
Mary Lee has her hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
Mary Lee, go ahead.
Or she's finding buttons now. Mary Lee, do you have a question?
Okay. All right, criminal arrest. We had 10 last month, just up from 1. You'll see that we had a burglary that was charged. Also, that disorderly conduct goes to that. So that's in reference to a case that one of my officers had at R&D where an individual was involved and got his vehicle towed and tried to get his vehicle without anybody there. And it cost him. Anything really stands out with those? No. Unlawful mischief is basically somebody that's causing property damage somewhere. Any questions on those?
Chief, I asked you last month, have you seen any increase in vagrancy homeless problems?
No, but we are seeing an increase in suspicious people and attempts late at night. So that's something I was going to address once I finish the thing. Absolutely. Anything on the traffic violations? See, we're still averaging the same. It'll pick up. I suspect April. Well, you'll see that increase. We're hitting more on Route 30. Also, I don't know if Mike, did you update him on that traffic study? Okay, so they're all set with that. So we are looking into those things. Calls of service to university, we just had one. And that's basically was an abandoned vehicle, which did not turn out to be stolen, just somebody left it.
Chief, I did have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
Just on traffic violations, I assume you're talking, on driving on roadways lanes for traffic, I assume you're talking catching four-wheelers or that kind of stuff on highways? Is that what that's about?
No, Bob, that's actually vehicles driving off the roadway and driving like into a medium or not driving on the travel portion of the road.
Oh, okay, all right.
Would an example of that be passing on the right?
Could be hitting the shoulder, yep. Could be going around people, could be somebody that's driving erratic, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all right, that's good. That's awesome, so we're seeing obviously more increase. One thing I noticed today in the patrol that we're seeing some more rubber laid on some roads, so people are getting, as the warm weather hits, they get a little more squirrely and starting setting the tires on the pavement. Calls of service, we got that.
My car's still put away.
What's that?
Nothing.
It's not you? Is that what you're
Not
saying?
yet.
We did get complaints about Drake Road, and I did ask Chief to do some patrols
Yes.
there.
So, as you know, that we do a lot of directed patrols, and a lot of these are from people that say to patrol a particular area. So we actually do a case on them, and that's what they're for. That's why we do so many. So within the last time that town manager asked me to put a little more patrols up there, I think I counted 8. I had them do a report on their, just a narrative in their case on if, was there anybody stopped. There was only one person stopped out of those 8, and they averaged between, let's say, an hour to 2.5 hours per patrol. One person was only stopped for speeding. I think some of the averages were, because that's a 35 zone, so 39, 40, 5, 4, 5 over. So, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, you can't hide up there, really. There's not a whole lot you can pull out unless you're in somebody's driveway. There are some people that will give us permission to do that, so there was no violations that we observed. Going to the backup, so we had like 5 to Fairhaven, 1 state police, 2 state police, so 1 Hubbardton, 1 Poultney. In those notes, we kind of went more in depth. I had Justin kind of go a little more in depth on the resident property checks. We do a lot because a lot of people call us, tell us when they're gone. So we try to do as many as we can. We don't do them every single day. We try to do at least 4 or 5 times a week, depending on how long they're gone. Looking for obvious things. Damage, doors open, cars in there. Most people will let us know if they're leaving a car. They'll also give us a contact if somebody is checking on the property or has to feed a cat or something like that. So that's why we do a lot of those. You know, one of the biggest thing, really getting into the whole police and the community policing, part of that is always provide services to the community. I mean, after all, that's what we do. So we try to make ourselves available as much as we can to do those things. And then the foot patrols increased, actually this month up until May 18th, since then when they, oh, not yet, these are all, are you gonna see these? No. These guys will be here, for more years. So I did have to go out, we did get our, a Scorpion Bowl is an event that happens every April in the spring. It stemmed from a rugby game many years ago, decades ago, where they would have an after game party. They used to play those rugby games up at where the President's Field is. That has long since been stopped. I don't know how many years ago, Dave, that stopped? Quite a bit. Yeah, 6, 7 years ago. Well, they continue the party. So in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been able to get the sponsors of the party, make contact with them. I kind of go over the guidelines. You know, don't do this, do this. So the party's been starting at like 1:30 in the afternoon, ending by 6 p.m., which doesn't affect a lot of people. And this year, which probably nobody knew where it was because they actually had a great location off Mechanic Street, one of the back places, way back in the backyard. They had a DJ. I met with the owner or the renters from that house that sponsored it, and they had about 100 people, maybe 90 to 100 people, which is actually kind of light. And they ended it at 6 o'clock. So we didn't get any complaints. I didn't see anything too squirrely. Kids were, you know, coming up from it. They're walking through, coming up from there. So, and I didn't hear anybody from any of the residents saying it was an issue. So that's one of the things that I really value is develop that relationship with the off-campus students that are living off-campus, obviously, I found it a lot easier to get to know them and not be antagonistic with them all the time. So that's one thing that my officers do. So we've kind of taken that role. Not that we let them get away with everything. It's just that you develop that relationship and there's more respect. Treat them like adult. They appreciate that. Let's see, what else? Oh, one thing I want to mention, I know Rob had talked to me earlier, and I want to go to the question that Mark had said earlier was, we're seeing more and more suspicious people going in back of properties, like Gilmore's has been twice in 2 weeks. He put out a big Facebook, which is actually the best. It's better than anything I can do. People were calling, seeing if I identified the people that were back there. We got some direction, but nothing that was solid. Rob responded really good, so that's what we want. They did get some property from from Durfee's, some gasoline that was in cans out there. They did not break in any of the buildings, but we did have them last week because he had another suspicious person last week from Gilmore's, and we hadn't put up signs back there because if they don't get anything, we want to be able to have something to charge them with besides just hanging around behind a building. So we put no trespass. And that's something, I don't know if you got, Mark, at your business? Like at some at nighttime, do you have those where they enter in? Mm-hmm. Okay. So those are things that we encourage. So we're going to see more and more. So we haven't really seen any increase in people that are wandering around that don't look like they belong here or loitering, but we're seeing more and more suspicious complaints. We had one up on Johnson Spooner Road where somebody twice in a week, look, somebody really young, go to this house, they have cameras, knock on the door, then they run off. I suspect that may be just a juvenile, don't know. No attempt to break in or anything like that. So as more and more people get the cameras, not that stops them, but people know the least to report them, and that's the biggest thing. But I suspect it's going to increase over the summer. And I think that's it that I have to put out. Any questions other than what I've covered?
Go ahead.
One of the things that the select board had asked you to follow up on was any grants available for those speed signs, those radar?
No.
Is that something that you've found any
Have not found any.
Maybe-
Not specifically for them. And we're kind of stuck on that. So. Maybe you have to wait for another cycle to come in?
Well, another option that the select board has is, as we approach the end of the fiscal year, as I help the select board, if there's any projections for surpluses, that you could choose to, through the police department side, to see if there's something like that, we could, because they're like $5,000 apiece.
Yeah. Anywhere from, I think the quotes were from like 19 to 21 or 18 to 21 for all of them, for all four. And nothing says we have to get four. And we could get at least two, start off with two, and then kind of go that route.
Start off with one if we had
Start
to.
off with one. Yeah.
I'll work on that with the chief as we get closer and closer to the end of the fiscal year in June 30th, see where we land. Thank you, Chief.
The only question I have for the board, am I sticking around till later? Because I know you got full. So do you want me to wait till next? All the information that we've gathered from, that you've asked about?
You want the call volumes and callbacks, and you wanted that tonight?
Times the calls.
Like for the executive session, did you want that? So you want me to do it tonight?
I would prefer to see that information before we have an executive session.
Okay, I have some stuff right here that's been copied.
Then can you provide us with that, and then we'll let you know when we want to discuss it with you? I think we should know what
It'd
we're
be
getting.
nice to read it over, be familiar with it.
You agree with that, Rob?
Yeah, I think we should probably make sure everybody's here too, because
Plus, I would like to have,
Two that are here.
preferably have all five of us in the room at the same time.
So there's this one for that.
Bob, he's handing out copies, Bob and Mary Lee, and I'll put them in your mailboxes.
Okay, thank you.
And this for this one.
Thank you.
Now, there's other information that I've answered questions in there that were brought up that are not handed out, that are something that I would present. So then I can plan to figure it out on the next board.
The piece of information that's possibly critical here is, are these just the calls between 2 AM and 5 AM in the morning?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
okay, then my second question isn't important. All right,
Mr. Chairman, at that point, if you're gonna be in executive session with him on that one, do you want to, is there at some point where the discussion will happen about the capital reserve stuff? Vehicle reserve?
yeah, but that doesn't need to be done in executive session.
Okay.
Does it? I don't believe so.
I don't know if there's any component of it that would,
I don't, not at this point, I don't believe. Do you agree with that, Rob?
what's up?
That there's no reason to talk about the capital asset portion of PD in executive session?
no.
Thank you, chief.
All right.
I think we're all set. We all set? The board all set with the chief? Okay, then we're gonna move. Bob, you all set?
Yep,
Okay,
all set.
then we're gonna move on. Mr. Alexander, you're up.
So, recreation for March 2024, you folks, I submitted the actual Excel document for the previous meeting, and those numbers are consistent from February into March in terms of the participants for pickleball, which sustains the present programming at the rec center. It is the majority of our active participants in any programming right now. We do have pickup basketball on Sunday afternoons, which has right now it's a very, their numbers are in flux. I've been there several days where it's been 5 to 10, and then other days it's been as many as 14. So which is why I don't see, I think it needs to be expanded in terms of, I have had questions in regards to the feasibility of an adult league in terms of basketball and exploring that, probably coming back into the winter months. I don't know how much it's going to, how much they're going to continue to play through the summer inside the facility. We are working on getting the basketball courts kind of stabilized behind the school. There are 2 hoops out there. We've also been approached by an ambassador for pickleball in the, I think it's like in Rutland County, southern Vermont area, by the name of Bob Witherby. And he did pose an interesting factoid, I suppose, to us. Basically, what they do through the U.S. Pickleball Association is they underwrite courts. So if you have a facility such as ours, either at Crystal Beach or the courts at the rec center, if we provide them with the space and the subsurface that they, on some level, and I need to make sure I qualify this with him, they will provide materials such as paints and lining. He specifically said, if you provide us with the area, we'll line it for you. We talked further on that, and he did mention paint, and I need to follow up with him on it, because those paints for those courts, especially outdoor courts, can be, several $100s. So just to be able to qualify that. So if we could actually, there's room out there for 3 pickleball courts easily. And that's going to, I understand, raise some issues with the neighbors, which we'll have to work through in terms of the noise associated with pickleball. But ideally, I'd like to be able to see 3 courts out there being actively used throughout the summer months. We'd probably have to put a time limit in terms of, obviously it's going to be limited to daylight hours, but if it's daylight out till 9 or 9:30 at night, you probably don't want pickleball going on that late. So finding some compromise in regards to the use of that outdoor court. We did get some dead fallen trees off the court. We're in the process of cleaning it up. I've spoken with Friends of Rec and Mary McIntyre about prepping the surface, and although we did get a quote for crack sealing and sealing, I understand that that wouldn't happen until after July 1st. So if the case is that Bob Witherby through this organization is willing to put up the money to be able to put those courts in, perhaps we could secure the materials to be able to do the sealing of the tar and with volunteer labor and proceed with the courts from there. I think it would be a big opportunity for expanding summer use to get folks out of the gym during the heat of the summer months. We are in a transition right now in terms of our winter events transitioning into our summer events. We have sign-ups active for Adventure Camp. Presently, we have 31 applications. We have, of those 31 applications for summer camp, and I couldn't tell you if that is on target or not. It seems like it's on target, but 24 paid customers, so you can sign up without actually paying. So usually those folks filter through and want to pay in person at the town office. So for Adventure Camp, we have 31 applications, 24 of them are paid. Some of them are for the entirety of the camp. Some of them are for individual weeks. They vary widely. And we've also extended the opportunity for parents to secure a position in the camp and then pay in person week by week, as opposed to paying up front on a credit card in one time, because at $85 a week or $75 to $85 a week, with, if you have to have early drop off and late pickup, it can be, $100 a week. So if you're signing up for all 8 weeks, it can be quite pricey. Sailing camp right now, I think it's entering its 8th season, is full. We have a waiting list developing. We presently have 2 campers that are on the waiting list and a third that has expressed interest in being placed on the waiting list. That will be the week of July 8th and July 15th. And we're looking forward to seeing that up and running. I think it's one of our, clearly one of our more unique offerings through the town. I mean, when I was speaking with Joe Mark about comparable pricing on sailing lessons, looking around New England in lakes and oceanfront, you had to go to yacht clubs to be able to find a sailing camp. It's pretty rare, and it's usually associated with very high-end communities, and it's typically pretty expensive. So we charge $100 a week, and typical sailing lessons in a similar type environment. Joe has an individual volunteer for each boat. He has 7 boats, and typically that's $75 per hour to learn to sail on a similar type, youth sailing lesson. So it's a great value. I think it brings in a lot of interest into the Crystal Beach in that facility. It's a model for other programming going forward at the beach. Our softball team, we presently have 11 kids signed up, with a 12th that inquired today, and I'm reopening registration for that person. We're going to cut it off at a 13. We're going to cap it at 13. I anticipate I'll probably pick up another straggler here or there. And they have presently 10 games scheduled, beginning May 16th with the first game. Our home field is the Castleton Elementary School, and I'm still working out the details and the understanding that we have with the elementary school and the use of their field. Youth baseball through the Rutland County Little League is, they're gearing up. Their practices are starting this week, specifically to the Castleton teams. They have, I believe, either 3 or 4 teams. I can't recall right off the top of my head, but they have a huge interest in Little League. I mean, the difference in the participation numbers is pretty dramatic. Of course, in Fairhaven, they have 3 girls softball teams right now, presently. We have 1, and we struggled to make that 1. So I'm not sure what has gone on in the past in regards to the softball, but there is a conversation going on in that loosely associated league run through Rutland Rec, that they are interested in dividing the grades up. Right now, the grades for youth softball in that league is grade 3 through grade 6. So the difference in development and the size of the kids is pretty dramatic. I'm trying to recycle some of the last softball uniforms from the former village school that were used for 1 season. I'm going to reprint the name on the front from CVS OVS, which was a combination of Castleton and Orwell, over with just Castleton. And they were all middle school uniforms, so the smallest size is adult small. And trying to size those up with a third grader, we're gonna have to order some smaller sizes. But it would be nice, because in the past, they've had to just use a generic T-shirt that was not well done. So to be able to have an actual uniform, they'll look pretty smart in that league. So 10 games presently scheduled, beginning in the middle of May. We had an inquiry through Mary, a referral on a paint and sip, minus the sip at this point at the school. So it's basically where you get together with folks and you paint. And typically you would sip wine or whatever. Of course, we won't have any official alcohol usage at the school, but ideally that is a model for more programming such as that. We also had a referral on, and I hope I got the name right, on a dance class that wants to be able to make inroads in the area, and they're going to be using the facility. I guess it's called West Coast Swing, and it's all the rage, kind of like the pickleball of dancing. So that's going to be coming in August. There's a couple of different options you can choose in terms of the profit sharing with the organization, and they cover all the insurances and music and instruction, and it begins with 4 weeks of instruction. So we're going to be discussing the particulars on that and trying to get that started, so for a little bit of a change in pace in the area. For I guess it's very popular, and Mike says that he fully intends on being a leader of the groups. So
My wife said I had to.
We're looking forward to it, Mike.
Yeah, I am. My wife said I'm looking forward to
No,
it.
we are.
Oh.
Through Slate Valley Trails and Matt Brown, he informed me that Slate Valley Trails has indicated that they would be willing to take on more trail development in this area specific to Castleton, which I think is a huge opportunity for the town. I recommended, and I would need to have, this discussion furthered with the board in terms of utilizing the town lands up off of Crystal Beach and North Road for, the first spot that we would look at to see if it's appropriate for some mountain biking trails. We're going to be getting together with one of the trail, I guess engineers, we'll call him, from Slate Valley Trails, and Matt and myself to be able to go up there and look at that land, unless the board has any particular objections to that. There seems to be good road frontage and access off one of the side roads, so I don't think, and I stopped into the town clerk's office and looked through the deeds, and it looks like there is no problem with access to the property in terms of trust. You don't have to go over any private land to be able to access it. So we'll go from there. It's a good amount of land. There is a good contour there. It's hilly, so I think that is conducive to mountain biking trails. Right now, today I spent the day on Hydeville's field. I basically scalped the field, the infield portion, the dirt portion. And last week was spent at Dewey with the intention of setting forms for our concrete pads for the dugouts, but it was entirely too wet at Dewey Field to be able to really operate any equipment or the possibility of actually, because it'll be a situation where we need to truck the cement in with a piece of machinery. And with the overgrowth of trees and just weeds, most of those trees are box alder, which is essentially a weed. And there's no sun that gets into that area. And so it never dries out. And so I've dropped a lot of those trees, and I'm going to continue to drop more of the trees. We're going to have a work session with one of the roustabout from the town garage and the transfer station on Wednesday to be able to introduce him to the use of the chipper. So I think he's going to learn to love the chipper. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done at Dewey. Paul McClure and I will meet. We're scheduled to meet tomorrow morning at 7 to go through the bathroom facilities to determine what is needed to be able to reopen that. And I'm going to be looking for skilled volunteer labor to assist me with reshingling the roof. The roof on the facility is still in pretty decent shape in terms of the underlayment. There doesn't seem to be any rot or any soft spots, so it's really still remarkably just a shingle situation, mostly because the building's not heated, obviously, during the winter, so you don't get that heat and thaw, so those shingles last a lot longer like that. So, remarkably, the roof's in good shape. Paul will go through tomorrow with me, and we'll see what's going to take to be able to get that facility open. And that is the home field for the Rutland County Little League. So it's going to need a lot of work, but it seems like that's my lot in life right now is fixing fields. So that's what I got.
Thank you, John. I would like to say that whatever you can use of Mary's crew to help you to get work done through others would be in everyone's best interest. And based on what I've heard, there's a bunch of people out there that really want to help.
Yeah, Mary and I talked about that again today, and it's been an ongoing conversation, and it is really, it's a management issue, really, being able to facilitate that in and of itself is another level of, supervision or organization, and going to work through it. And I do have some experience with that in the past, through the high school and, volunteer days for the kids. And, I presume that if I can properly identify the skills of the individuals, take, for instance, the roof on the facility down at Dewey. If there's old roofers, they don't necessarily have to get up on the roof, but just the know-how and the knowledge base will be helpful. And I fully intend on taking advantage of those individuals wishing to volunteer. And once it's up on its feet, I think it's going to take on a life of its own in terms of Friends of Rec in the Lions Club and whatnot. So
You may find that the person to help you administrate all that is just waiting to be asked.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
maybe you'll get lucky.
Well,
in
Mary
the
is
right-
very helpful. I mean, she keeps me posted on a lot of that stuff, and she's willing to do whatever it is that needs to be done. So,
Mark, you had something?
I did. First, I was going to mention, I went by Hyattville Field today. It looks fantastic. It's really nice. I coached there for a long time. That field's really near and dear to my heart. It was nice to see it looking good. Yeah, I think that you'll find a lot of Little League parents and other people in the community will respond and get together and do work days for you. Maybe not skilled help, but, people with pickup trucks that are willing to haul brush away.
yeah.
I certainly wouldn't suggest you give a chainsaw out to everybody that shows up. But there's a lot of people that can haul brush. And I think, I've seen how hard you're working and how much you have to do. And I know that you have the skill set for all this stuff. And I also understand the mindset that it's a lot easier to do it yourself and do it correctly. But there's not enough John Alexander to do all that work.
You're right.
And you're gonna have to, you know, spend 2 hours coordinating with Mary or Mary Mack or Mary Drogi, and they'll help you come up with teams of 10 guys that won't accomplish as much as you would. But if you get 10 men and women that are half as efficient as you are to spend a Saturday, it's gonna really, really supercharge what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the thing that I'm really, really hopeful and have my fingers crossed about with rec is programming at the school. You know, I think the taxpayers have taken a leap of faith to see if the community can make that work.
Yep.
But by town meeting next year, there's gonna have to be a lot going on at that school, or it's not gonna get support.
Yeah.
There's already a group of people in the community that are questioning the board about, hey, what's going on over there? How come that isn't sold? How come we're not collecting property tax on it? And we don't have good answers at this point, other than it's in the works.
Right.
And,
Right.
but you know how that goes. Pretty soon, we're gonna have to show results, or we're gonna lose that support. And this board really, really wants that to work as a rec center. I know you want it to work as a rec center, and a huge number of people in this town do. And we're gonna have to make sure that we all work really
Collaboratively?
That's what we're gonna do. To
Collaborate.
make sure that this works for the whole community, because as you know, the potential is real, and it can serve everybody in the community, but we've gotta get results. And I think also, now, do you know Andy Vermillier?
Yeah, yep. We're working on the
Great
turkey
resource,
trot together and.
I'm sure he could, probably get these kids from the college to come out there and haul brush, but.
Very
no.
possibly, very possibly, right?
I know the hockey team does, community outreach, you know, I think there's a lot of resources out there.
I think one of the things about, particularly on Dewey right now, we probably could have already had somebody out picking up brush, because there was a tremendous amount of it on the field relative to the storms this winter. But the reality is that there's a lot more of it right now after I just dropped 20 trees. So, you know, it's getting those big things out of the way. Like when I cleaned up a broken off bull pine limb, huge limb the other day, using the town skid steer, so wet down there, it just made a mess. Just an absolute
That's a town
mess.
aquifer, so you wanna be really, really careful
Yep.
down there.
And
digging.
so it made a, you know, and so getting those big projects done and out of the way, stuff that you can't really have anybody else around you when you're falling trees and whatnot. But there will be lots of work here over the next month. I think is going to be very intensive between that, Hydeville, and the beach. It will be pretty intensive with volunteers. I did want to, there was one other thing, I'm not sure the board is aware of it. It's out in the news. It's been talked about in the minutes of the school board, but the school board is looking at cutting 5th and 6th grade athletics from their budget and returning it to the towns for our offerings. So we will be tasked with significantly more athletics next winter, fall, winter. So the soccer programs, basketball, and any 5th and 6th grade spring sports that they presently offer are going to be all returned back to the towns.
Did you say that you're currently using the softball field at the elementary school?
Yes. Yeah, that's the home field for the girls softball.
Okay, good, because there was an agreement, rec paid for that field. There was an agreement that would be a rec field prior to the consolidation of the district. I just want to make sure that was still open.
Yep, and it needs work. The Jimmy Casey sign is on the ground and it needs replacing. I'm not sure if that was through rec or?
That was through rec. It was paid for by the Casey family in memory of their son who passed away.
Yeah,
So it really needs to be maintained.
yeah. The
That
field
can't-
itself is in pretty good shape. The sign itself was on the ground when I went up there the other day, so if it's
Yeah, we made a
something
good
that-
faith agreement with the Casey family and that can't stay like that.
Okay, well, I'll look into getting some prices on replacing it then. That's what I got.
Any more
Exciting
questions
stuff.
from the board? Anyone
I
else?
just have one, Dick.
Go ahead, Bob.
I just want to see if John can give us a 9 months report on the total revenues received to date by the next meeting. Be okay.
Sure.
Thank you very much, John.
Sure.
Appreciate all the
John,
effort.
One more thing, do you work it around in your hours so you're able to attend the rec commission meeting and the friends meeting?
Right now, those would just be in addition. I intend on, there's a Friends of Rec this Thursday. I plan on attending because we have a lot of stuff going on, that we're talking about in terms of the volunteer stuff, so.
Great.
Yes, short answer, yes.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Thank you, John.
Mr. Chairman, we also have the swim program this summer too. That didn't get canceled. It's a little more, a little different than it will be in the past, timing wise, but they're still offering it.
Okay, good. Moving on, see if I get this right. Otter Creek Communication Union District. Discussion, our Representative Tim Munks is resigning his position with regret. I would say we need to accept his resignation. So can we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to accept Tim Monk's resignation from the Otter Creek Communications Union District.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to accept Tim Monk's resignation with regret. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And,
How do we post a replace or request for replacement?
well, I think the first thing we're gonna do is ask the town manager to advertise via social media, the website, et cetera, for a replacement. And there is, a possibility that one of our board members might want to do it, but then again, there might not be. I really honestly don't know what's involved.
It's not like going to the Rutland County Solid Waste District meeting once a month, I can tell you that. There's some involvement with it, and Tim actually sending me the name of a person to reach out to.
Okay,
So he asked me if he had sent it to me, and I said, I don't have any record of it, so he was gonna send that to me. So that might fill the vacancy, but I don't have the name yet.
yeah, and to his credit, he did say that, his reason for leaving is he's changing employment and he won't have the time to dedicate to this, but he is willing to, offer his help as an alternate. So we're gonna move on unless there's something else, anything from the board or Jeff? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just so people that are listening, so this was all the internet, last mile. That's what they were truly working on, was getting broadband internet out to those underserved areas. And that was their focus. And they came to the board early on asking for some money, and then they found their own money through grants. But that's what their big focus on, is broadband internet out to the last mile for those underserved areas.
They've accomplished a lot.
They're nowhere near done yet. They've got a lot
Nowhere
more-
near done.
They've got a lot more that they're going to do and a lot more that they can do. All right, how about liquor control approvals? Somebody want to take a shot at a motion? You can do it all in one big shot there right off the agenda, Mark.
Okay, and again, these have all been approved by the chief?
Nothing gets to us before the chief gets, it has to go through the chief to get to us.
Except for
Okay.
tobacco now, I guess they don't ask them for tobacco, because it
That's-
don't need that.
But as far as the first, second, third-class liquor licenses. They don't get to us until they get through the chief.
Okay, can I make a motion that we approve all of the liquor control approvals before the board tonight, or should they be itemized?
They should be itemized for the minutes.
Okay. Make a motion that we approve the Department of Liquor Control approvals for the American Legion, third-class license and outside consumption, for DG Retail, doing business as the Dollar General Store, that's tobacco license only, and a separate license for DG Retail, doing business as the Dollar Store for a second-class liquor license. BEEJJ Incorporated, doing business as Castleton Corners Deli for a second-class liquor license. Robo's Creamies and General Store, second-class liquor license. And Carl Champagne, doing business as the Token Glass Shop, a tobacco license and tobacco substitute endorsement.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? I do have one thing, Mark. I'm pretty confident that we missed the first-class license for the American Legion in your motion.
You're absolutely right. I
Can-
just said the third-class license and
So
outside
can you
consumption.
move to amend your motion to include that?
I'd like to amend my motion to include a first-class license for the American Legion Post 50.
Do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on these? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, short-term rental discussion. First, before we get into this, I want to thank Rob Steele for his work on this, as well as Karen Stewart's work on this.
Yeah, Karen did all the hard stuff, so she's,
I kind of assumed that, but I was
I
kind of
just,
hoping.
just wanted to make sure everybody knew.
I was kind of hoping you would say it. I did look at this briefly, and I think we've got more work to do, and I don't think we're in a position tonight to approve this. I don't think we're close to that yet.
No.
So what are your recommendations, Rob, for
Um,
our next steps?
well, I'd like to have the whole board here to go over it when we do finally approve it, but I think we need to look at what we're gonna do as far as who does any home inspections. That's something that's gonna be an issue because the fire marshals won't do anything under, I think it's 9. So regular single family, that's gonna be up to either somebody that we delegate for the town, like a safety officer, or if we hire a private home inspection company.
Anything else?
I think that was pretty much it on that.
I have one edit I'd like to discuss.
Certainly.
Typically, this has been used that a bedroom allows 2 occupants, so a 3-bedroom dwelling would allow 6 plus 2 when it's used as a short-term rental for a total of 8.
Yeah, that's fairly common across pretty much all of the short-term rentals that we looked at.
I think we should amend it to 1.
So plus 1 extra.
I mean,
Okay.
it plays a bigger impact on a smaller house. If you've got a 1-bedroom house, it goes to 3,
Yeah.
which is a 50% increase.
Yep.
If it was a 4-bedroom house, although the way I read the fire marshal, it would be a maximum of 8 anyway. At
Can I
8,
just ask a question for clarification?
Certainly.
Rob, you said the fire marshal doesn't do anything under 9, is that 9 occupants?
I believe it was in a single-family home, 9 to 16 guests.
Okay.
9 to
Because,
16 guests, they call that a rooming and lodging facility.
so that goes under a different code, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
I guess
So I
because
think
they're
we
so.
should have a hard limit on 8 anyway, no matter how big the house is.
I'm not sure I agree with
Yeah,
that.
I mean, even if you had 8-bedroom home.
Because there's been times when our extended family has rented a very large house and had 12 to 14 occupants in the house. We still, everyone had their own bed, and there was no more than 2 people to a room, but still. So I'm not sure that 8 is appropriate. I think your quantity of bedrooms plus 1 or 2 is more appropriate.
You know, we got one person sleeping on the couch or a couple people sleeping on a cot or something, I think is fine. But like, for example, on the way here today, we were just kind of looking at stuff, and there's a house up on the lake right now that's an Airbnb, and that one wouldn't make it because, what do they have? It's 6 bedrooms, and they're saying that it sleeps 18. So that would be clearly over the, 12 plus 2.
Mm-hmm.
So most of those were a double bed plus 2 bunk beds in each room. So
Now, are these properties on the lake, are most of the properties in town have a septic permit?
I'm not sure how the septic works in the town as far as that goes. I think that they need to be inspected, but that one particular one happened to be on town sewer, but I'm not sure what the requirements are for town sewer code for homes that have been there for a while.
I mean, I'm really in favor of tourists visiting our community. It's really a really important revenue source, but I'm not sure that 16 people staying next door to a one-family residence is appropriate. Seems like a lot. Would seem like a lot if it was next to my house.
Playing pickleball.
Yeah,
Yeah, playing
at
pickleball.
10 o'clock at night.
I see your point, but I don't necessarily agree, because I've been in situations where we've had,
Okay.
literally 6 adult couples and a couple of kids. And we were well behaved, responsible adult human beings. Now granted, not all human beings are responsible, and
I'm just bringing it up. I'm not.
So,
I mean, I think if it's a single family home that has 8 bedrooms in it to begin with, I mean, you're kind of expecting that home to have a significantly amount more people than, say a single family home with 2 bedrooms.
Yep.
So
Okay.
that would be my only thing.
Okay. I'm withdrawing my comment.
yeah, and we're
Moving on.
So what's our next steps, Rob? What would you like to see done before the next meeting?
I think if we can figure out what we want to do as far as who's going to actually do the inspections, I think that would be probably about where we need to go next, because everything else, in my opinion, is pretty straightforward. I mean, a lot of this came from the town of Rutland one, which is about the same as any other one that's throughout the state.
Yeah, the 2 concerns I have in addition to that are, we've already touched on it briefly, is waste disposal.
Yeah, I think
Human
we
waste
need septic
disposal,
inspections.
And possibly also there could be parking issues if we're not careful.
And that was something else that we had in there, I believe was a parking sketch for each property. If it wasn't, it was supposed to be in there.
I think it's in there.
Might have overlooked it, but
I may have
yeah, that
overlooked it,
makes
too.
sense. If you have a single family home that's for, let's say, 4 guests or whatever, or no, if you have a single family home that's, say, for 8 guests and there's only 1 parking spot, obviously those other cars are going to be parked somewhere else, so that then becomes a problem. So that's something that probably we should look into also, is how many parking spots do we need to require? If you have 4 guests, do you require 2 parking spots?
It's something we really got to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Did Rutland Town address that?
They did not. They just said it had to, I think it had to adhere to their parking ordinance or whatever they have, but I don't believe Castleton has anything for private parking.
Not to my knowledge. And I can say that I've seen issues up along the lake, on both sides of the lake, where there's been times when there's been more cars at an event at somebody's home than there should be. It makes traveling up Route 30 or the Creek Road just less than optimal.
I did watch the Rutland Town meeting that they had select board meeting. They had 5 or 6 meetings on it, and nobody really showed up till the last one. And some of the complaints that were coming out were that, most of these people that have the Airbnbs they don't need to be regulated because they're already following all these procedures and stuff like that. And I think that's fine, but I don't think that we're really regulating to the point as more as just registering to make sure that we know what's going on. I believe is more of what this follows. So I think that we should be pretty good with that.
Anything from Bob? Mary Lee? Is Mary Lee still on? Bob, do you have anything
Yeah,
to?
I do. I'm still, I guess, a little annoyed. We talked at the beginning of this conversation about approving this. I know we're not gonna do it tonight, because you're talking about doing it at the next meeting. Have we reached out to any of these people, of the 70 people that have short-term rentals in town, and let them know what we're up to? I mean, I just think we need to get more information out to them so they can show up and not, like you just said, Rob, show up at the last meeting when we're ready to approve it. I'm not comfortable with that.
First off,
I
Bob,
don't know how you go about doing it.
we
Go ahead.
never said that we were going to approve this at the next meeting. I don't recall anyone in this
All right,
building
what-
saying that.
It was.
And second,
mentioned it. Wasn't it?
and secondly, I do agree with you that we definitely need to make sure that the residents that this affects, or non-residents, the landowners that this affects, are well aware of this before we do this. I do agree with that as well.
Yeah, and when are we gonna do that, Dick?
I don't think we've
This is the
said,
third meeting that we've talked about.
we haven't set a time frame. We're still trying to make sure that our ordinance is well-written and appropriate, and then we still have to have legal counsel look at it before we even begin to think about ratifying this and approving it.
Okay, well, I would like to get comments from the people that it's gonna affect, way before we send it to the lawyers.
We can do that.
So, that's all, that's all I'm saying. It's just somewhere we need to reach out to those people and let them know what we're up to.
I agree. You agree
Okay.
with that?
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement on that, Bob, okay?
I just think that we
Okay,
need to
well,
have,
this is the third, go ahead.
I think we just need to have the draft finalized so that everything is the way we want it prior to reaching out to everybody so that we don't have questions ourselves. We should get it nailed down to this is what we want to do, and we can modify it after we reach out to people, but we need to have it pretty well, pretty solid before we go in front of people with it. So as a board, we need to all come to agreement that this is what we want to bring to the people. We don't want to have questions for each other, or, Dick doesn't really like that idea when we get in front of people. We need to say, this is what we've all agreed on. What do you guys think?
Sure. Okay, the other question I had on this whole thing is the $100 fee to begin with, and then it's $100 per bedroom?
Correct.
Right? Do I read that right?
Yes.
So if it's a 3-bedroom house, they're gonna be paying $400?
$400, correct.
Okay. All right, I didn't know if that initial $100 covers the first bedroom or not.
No, all the ones that we've seen, it's been an initial fee and then a fee per bedroom after that.
Okay.
I would also like to withdraw my suggestion that we go to 2 people per bedroom plus 1, and leave it at the 2 people per bedroom plus 2.
Yeah.
Since that seems to be the standard that has been approved,
That seems to have been what's on every single one that I've seen,
so we should that's the easiest path for us to go down. And
There
that
shouldn't-
seems to
there
also.
shouldn't be any legal issues when it comes to that because it's
Correct.
already set precedent, so.
And the Vermont Retail Short-Term Rental Alliance seems to have accepted that.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't get any pushback from the Association of Short-Term Rentals.
No, we would not. It's a pretty standard thing in Airbnb and VRBO.
Yep. And they, in their little brochure, they certainly recognize exactly what we're trying to accomplish, to just protect the safety of people that are renting and the safety of the neighbors.
And I don't think I saw Karen sent an article out today for me to read. In there's spots like Burlington you have to be owner occupied or else your Airbnb is prohibited. And there's some big issues with that up there, and I don't think that we're going that far. I think that we're just enough to make sure that everything's safe, everything's fair for everybody, and we have everything on file.
Yep. That
So-
there's someone who is responsible, whether they live there or not. There's a
Correct.
responsible manager.
And we have a way to contact them.
There's
If
someone 30
needed.
30 minutes or less away.
Yep. Yep.
They can help out if there's an issue.
Yep, just to provide for the safety of everybody involved, everybody impacted.
Anything else? Okay, we're gonna move on then. So, Rob, I think we ought to take a look at, just how we're gonna get the inspection,
Yes.
for, facilities that have less than 9 people.
Mhm.
And we also need to think about including parking and a septic inspection
I
of some
believe there
kind.
was, she did have something in there about the septic.
Well, there was something in there about parking, I just need to
Yep.
get my mind wrapped around it,
Yep.
and make sure that everyone's looked at that. And because those are my concerns at this point. So don't let me forget to do that for you. Moving on. Local emergency management plan. We have a final draft for approval. I went through this.
I did as well.
So can we have a motion to approve it? And then if there's discussion to follow, there is.
I would make a motion that we approve the local emergency management plan as the draft that we have in our packages.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the local emergency management plan. Is there any discussion from the board? Hearing none from the board, the town manager, you want to speak?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman. On page number 3, paragraph 4-7, I would ask that you make the motion to approve as presented with that stricken, so we don't have, there is no, this is not enclosure 7. If you look at the very back page of this thing, I made the error, enclosure 7 is the last page, which is mutual aid agreement. Tier 2 sites will be out, it'll be replaced with mutual aid, DPW mutual aid agreement, names. So if you could just somehow make the motion that, paragraph 4-7 will not be tier 2 sites, it'll be the DPW portion of it. Everything else is good.
Okay, I'd like to amend the motion that we approve the local emergency management plan with the exception of 4.7 on page 3 being adjusted to DPW mutual aid agreement. Take out tier 2 sites.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Then moved and seconded to amend the motion to change the verbiage on 4.7, page 3. So first, I'm going to ask if there's any more discussion from the board or the town manager. Is there any discussion from the public? So I'm going to ask for, we're going to do this in 2 shots. All in favor of the original motion to approve the LEMP as presented, say aye. Nobody saying aye?
I thought we were just gonna
Amended
vote
it,
on it as
wouldn't
amended. Or
We
are
can
you
do that,
Doing
okay.
it 2 separate.
I'm going to make sure we get this right, so.
Okay.
That's, our parliamentarian wants to do it that way, we will do it that way. So I'll make a motion, or I'll call the question on the motion as amended to include the change to section 4.7 on page
Aye.
3. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
So, the ARPA discussion, Village Trust Initiative, that's up next. No, wait a minute. First off,
Condition of town parks.
you want to talk about the town parks there, Mr. Town Manager?
Sure. A lot of it's already been discussed, so I'll be really brief. So what you have is the two PowerPoint presentations showing some photos of the Dewey Field, the T-ball field, and the basketball court behind the former village school. Just where we're at with the condition and kind of the challenges that we have to rehabilitate them. And I did ask if the board members had time they could visit those and just see it yourself, give you kind of a better understanding. So this is what we're facing. It didn't get this way overnight, and it's going to take a little bit of time to recover from this. But I think between the rec director, the rec commission, and the Friends of Rec, that we've got enough interest and positive vibes going on that this will move forward. But so you have that, and then I changed the ARPA potential uses of the ARPA funds to include some stuff for the rec fields. But we can, if you get it into any kind of discussion on ARPA, I guess I can answer it then. But just so you're aware, and I hope that you did get a chance to look at it, because pictures are worth 1,000 words, but when you're walking the ground and see it yourself, it does really let it sink in, I guess. So that was, I don't have anything unless you have questions of me.
I went to all of them today. Is John still here, or did he go?
I think his chair is vacant. I took a ride around and I saw where work needed to be done and I saw where work was getting done. So I appreciate John's efforts and whoever's helping him.
One of the things I met with John on Sunday, and we talked about how to best approach this with the Friends of Rec, and talk to the Rec Commission about that, their role maybe in strategic planning for rec over the next 5 to 7 years, or 3 to 7 years even. But one of the things that John and I brainstormed was come up with a list of those items that need to get done, and then talk with the Friends and Mary McIntyre and for the Lions Club, and let's see what skill sets they have, what they can do, and that doesn't have, John doesn't need to supervise it. Things that could be done. I don't need John to show me how to build a bench, kind of thing, or cut branches from a fence. So we talked about that, and he said he would come up with that list. He may have already even talked to Mary about it, I don't know, but that way we can leverage the enthusiasm and the excitement from those groups to help get some stuff done, and it frees John up from having to feel like he has to be there every waking moment of this, and we still make progress.
I went and looked at all those today. I was really heartbroken to see that T-ball field. Back 20 years ago when I was involved in rec, there weren't enough fields. There was a lot of competition for them. And that's when we created the girls' field up at the elementary school, and there was no T-ball field. And there was a private anonymous donation that paid for that backstop. And Ronnie, did you know Ronnie St. Amord? She was a longtime janitor. Towards the end of her life, she and I went down there, and she put a tremendous amount of time into it. And we built that backstop and laid out the field. And to see there's, scrubby wood falling on it, it's destroying that backstop. That would be a great project if Friends of Rec could get a couple folks down there. Do you know what I mean, the T-ball field? That backstop's only 20 years old. Seems like yesterday, but a couple of folks with handsaws could fix that from further decline. If it's left the way it is, thing's gonna be on the ground, and it'll never get replaced.
Because there's a fence line, you can't even tell, there's a fence line that runs along the railroad tracks as part of the left field, and it's so overgrown, I couldn't even tell there's a fence there until I got close to it.
That fence is only 20 years old. That was put in when Amtrak came through.
Yeah.
Before Amtrak, the kids walked from the village school to Dewey Field. And when Amtrak came, they fenced that. So, yeah, it's not that old.
But, like you saw the benches, and they're probably going to be redone.
Yeah.
But those are all things that hopefully that the Friends or the Lions Club would be able to take on, and John can focus on the big muscle moves and running equipment and doing that stuff. So
yeah, that backstop again was a private donation to someone that's not with us anymore. But it's kind of sad that You know, when they donated that money to the town, I think they felt that it probably would be a T-ball field forever, and hopefully it will be, but should be better taken care of than it is. That'd be a really great project if you could get a few folks to do that. Is, Andrew Bentley on your board, on your group?
No,
No.
they've been invited. They're on the email list.
Good. Yeah, he's a really great resource.
I know. We need to rope them in.
And some people, once we get things identified, they will come and help. It's just they don't like meetings. They'll come and work their rear ends off. They just don't want to come to a meeting because it's just not their cup of tea. But if we can get it organized, things identified like you're talking about, but somebody has to lead it.
Well, that's a really good project for those folks that have young
Somebody has
kids.
to say, 10 o'clock, we're gonna meet at such and such a place, and somebody's gotta have the, I don't know, the go-ahead, I guess, we won't call it authority, but the go-ahead to say, okay, go ahead and do that, if you could accomplish that, that would be good. And I think those are the kind of directions that we'll just need to have.
Yeah, that'll work with John. Because they can meet during the week at some point and just walk the ground and see it, and pile the brush here, we'll pick it up, you know.
Week is a problem. We need some time on weekend.
Yeah.
That's when working people have time to donate.
And that doesn't need chainsaw, it needs some people with, you know, some hand crosscut saws. There's a scrubby, wet area right behind the backstop. You don't even need to take the brush off site. It's been a brush dump forever. But that is the only field in town that's set up to play T-ball. You know, all the dimensions are correct, it's safe, it's a perfect place for young kids.
Was the Rotary involved with that? Because Dr. Wright pitched the first pitch off that mound.
Pardon me?
Was the Rotary involved with that? Because Dr. Wright pitched the first pitch off that mound.
Well, there's no mound down there.
Well, okay, the pitchers, you
Okay.
don't need to call it a mound, but the pitcher, he pitched the first pitch.
Did he?
Because he pitched it to my daughter.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may have participated in that.
That's why I was thinking that.
My memory's a little shaky back 20
That's why I was
years.
thinking that he got, but, you know,
25.
from the pitcher's circle, if you will, on the mound. That's, yeah, it seems like yesterday, and I.
It's a great place
haven't
for
been
the
down
younger
that hill,
kids.
I haven't looked.
Well, I'm committed to helping them get this done because it truly looks, pardon the expression, but it looks like we don't give a shit. That's how I pictured this, and I know that's not true. So if that offends someone, I'm sorry that it offends you, but that's what it looks like to me. Because it's just overgrown and things have been left in disarray and it's in different various stages of disrepair depending on what field you go to. And we have an opportunity to fix it, and I'm hoping that with all this enthusiasm and stuff, that we'll get there.
I have no doubt we will. You know, it's always an up and down over the years, and when it's drawn to attention and parents really think about what they want for their kids and the kind of environment, people get going on it. Mary's gonna make it happen. The Marys will make it happen.
I think if people know, I think people will invest if they know that it's gonna be ours.
There needs to be some better communication out to the parents, maybe some more information on Front Porch Forum. What's Roy's paper, the,
Lakeside News.
well, he's so enthusiastic to publish any public service announcement, especially if it has to do with youth activities.
And not just on his paper, he also posts it on Facebook.
Good. Good, well, it seems like your groups have a lot of good stuff going, so we appreciate you coming in and giving us updates and anything we can do to help.
Thank you.
So can we, that's been unclear to me, and I know we've talked with Brett. What is your understanding, Mark, of the state of the little girls? To me, that was always the little girls softball field at the elementary school. But when the schools merged, where does Castleton Rec land with that, the use of that field?
I can't answer that because we never would have believed that there would be a time that the town of Castleton didn't own that school, not when I was a parent 25 years ago. But again, there were 2 fields in town, Dewey and Hydeville, and there were 4 boys teams that played every night. And then there was the summer league girls, 5th and 6th grade girls, and 7th and 8th grade girls. And they started playing on a very high level, and they started playing frequently, and this became a problem. They used Hydeville Field a couple times. People actually went down there and took the pitcher's mound out because they don't use it for the softball, and other people put it back in. So we made an agreement with the school to build that field, and it was just part of the playground, and the Casey family came up with the money.
Yeah, I remember that history, I just don't know where we are now.
I don't know. I mean, we made an agreement with the elementary school that would be available for rec, just for the girls, that there would be no changes made to that field. There wouldn't be a pitcher's mound. It would be a softball field. And, we had that agreement with the principal and the school board, but of course that school district doesn't exist anymore. So it would probably be a good idea just to go to a school board meeting and remind them that agreement was there, and that,
Will they honor that agreement, I guess is the question.
Because it's my understanding that we've been doing some trading for the use of, again, I don't know, but it seems like we already traded years ago. It doesn't seem like we should have to keep trading.
no, it doesn't.
Mary, we're gonna do some research on that. I just made myself a note, and we're gonna find out just where that stands.
Because Martha's not here, but I know we were told to get our equipment out of that shed that one of the softball girls' dad built on that. And then we talked about, last time I was here, we talked about storage. And that really was the little girl's storage shed for their equipment.
That's a reasonable question, deserves an answer. We'll have to get you one. Okay? Anything else on this issue before we move on? All right, we're gonna move on to the Village Trust Initiative. I'm gonna yield to you, Mr. Town Manager.
All right. This was sent around. It's a pie in the sky kind of thing for us, knowing that we don't meet this criteria of 2,500 or less people. But it's also not out of the ordinary that these grants don't get used, and if they open it up to further expand the criteria or loosen the criteria, that we could get some funding on this. But this, what I sent it out originally was for the former Castleton Village School and turning it into a community center. And there was some excitement and energy, and Andy Vermillier from the university is going to participate in this webinar or informational meeting that's coming up. And I will participate as well. And but we may not qualify because of the criteria of the number of personnel in a town or the population, but during this webinar, this informational meeting, we'll be able to ask questions like that, and we'll be able to determine whether we're just the door shut in our face or if there's a possibility. So we'll follow up with you once we know more about it.
Great.
It's certainly worth a shot, and I mean, that's not the first time I've heard about grants being under-applied for.
Right now, that whole grants and aid stuff that's out there, there's 134 participant towns, and there was like 28, I think, was how many towns had applied right now. So those are the kind of things where there's this pot of money, and it's designed to be able to equitably spread it out, and then when they don't apply, they bump up the thresholds, and so, you never know.
Would be a good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you start now, you'll have all the information together and everything will be there, so even if they say no now, a month or two from now, or 3 months or 6 months, we're all set just to hand it in again.
And if they bump the threshold from 2,500 to 5,000, it'd be nice to be first in line. Anything else on that, Mike, before we move on?
Not unless you have any questions, I'm
I
good.
have none at this point. I may be willing, depending on timing and how things are, how life is, I may try to get into that webinar as well. All right, next item up, do we want to get into the weeds on ARPA tonight with Bob on the road and Mary Lee under the weather? What's the board's pleasure? Bob, what do you think?
If we could hold off till the next meeting, that would be helpful, I believe.
Is there anything here, Mr. Town Manager, that you consider time sensitive?
Not really, everything is sensitive to that deadline of the end of this fiscal year, or I mean, calendar year, as far as obligating the funds. When I sent out a message about this, I added in the T-ball field, Dewey Field in there, and I reduced the paving, because I know you probably don't want to go into the paving stuff, so I'll kind of, brevity is the key here. But putting $60,000 in here, knowing that it costs $200,000 per mile to pave, it's almost laughable at this point. I think that this board would probably find some better use of $60,000 than paving less than a half a mile of road. Given that we're coming to that lifespan of ARPA, and that with all the other things going on in town, projects and stuff like that, that maybe you'll find a better use of that 60 grand. So that potentially could go out the window. And then the T-ball field, because you'll notice at the very end, there's still on the last page, and that number at the bottom, $18,644.45. That's still stuff that, taking everything that's on this spreadsheet, whether it's stuff, the green part, the top part that's been spent, or if it's the whatever rose colored at the bottom, that's recommendations, you're still $18,644.45. That's not even factored in here. And every month that goes by, we earn more and more interest on this money too, so that grows. So those are the two things, Mr. Chairman, that I would bring up is potentially the capital projects and paving could be reduced or taken out and potentially used for something else. But I did add the T-ball field in there for your consideration. And then at the very bottom, under general government buildings, CVS, $18,000 to resurface the basketball courts and reline them. If we get free relining once they're done, that'd be awesome. For those pickleball courts and basketball courts, and then remove trees overhanging the courts and resurface the driveway on the west side of the building. Those are just ideas out there. But if you saw the pictures, I seriously think that it's going to take a major effort to clean those all that cracks out on that a basketball court and make it smooth. If you went out behind there, it's like step on a crack, break your mama's back kind of thing. It's so many of them. So resurfacing it could be a good use of some money to provide more infrastructure for rec. I don't think it's going to cost $18,000, but I put something in there as a placeholder until I can get an actual firm number. But since you're not making any decisions on it, it's just me bringing it up as potentially here's something to look at. And I'm making a visit to the town of Pittsford, West Rutland, and West Rutland to look at their salt and sand shed. They've been through this painful process, and they've used the TAP grants, the Transportation Alternative Program grants. And when Brandon did theirs, I was talking to the town manager today, former town manager Brandon, who's now the town manager of Pittsford. They threw the TAP grant out the window and built it their own. They built one for less than about $300,000.
Really?
Yeah, because by the time you look at what our share is of the $800,000 projected cost of this thing, you're almost, if you can build one for, $300,000, we got like 256 right now. We're so damn close. So maybe that's keeping that in your pocket as I find out, when I visit and find out a little more information, next week,
Is
hopefully.
it because that building has to make special requirements for that grant?
It's all federal cross cutters, all it's basically, it's a job stimulus, program, those grants, because you're paying Bacon Davis wages, you gotta meet all this federal requirements, and it just jacks the cost up like crazy. Whereas if we poured a pad, got a permit and did everything right, and poured the pad and built it ourselves, we might still get what we want, but for a lot less. And we don't have to deal with all the federal requirements and the audits for, single audits for using, if we use over, or if we spend over $750,000 a year in federal funds, then we gotta have single audits. And just, there's some downside, and there's some upside and downside. So when I meet with those towns, West Rutland built one of those membrane, the steel structure with the membrane over it, and they're just having to replace some of that membrane now. So they asked me to come over and take a look at it, talk to them, and just see what the process was like. Was it worth it? The repair costs, maintenance of it, that kind of thing. So I'm taking the DPW foreman on a road trip with me, and we're also gonna look at 2 roads in Pittsford where they did chip sealing versus normal asphalt paving, and the town manager told me today they're holding up extremely well, and said, come on up and take a look at them, because I think you'll be impressed. So that's part of our, when we take the big school bus and go on a field trip.
So when are you doing that field trip?
Karen, I asked Karen today to reach out to get dates from our folks when they're be available next week, so that I can send the town manager a couple dates. And the other person that's gonna go on that road trip is the rec director's gonna meet with their rec director, because they got some kick-ass programs up there. So I'm gonna take John with us. So they'll do breakouts when we get there, and then Karen and I are gonna meet with the town manager and talk about delineation of duties and all that good stuff.
To back up just a tiny bit, you discussed resurfacing the basketball court out there. That wouldn't eliminate it as basketball, though. Okay.
No, it just would resurface the whole thing, because if you take a look at it, to crack seal that, all those cracks have to be cleaned out, blown out, and
Too far gone.
I think that, we're gonna spend just as much as crack sealing as or half as much as crack sealing as it's gonna cost to resurface the whole
Yeah,
thing.
it takes a lot more 5-gallon buckets of that stuff than you think to
Yeah.
do old old pavement that hasn't been done in a while.
But I did put on, for paving is to get a quote on that we got 3 paving companies that we're dealing with for the paving bids right now, so if they can give me a good quote for what it would cost, then I can come back to you with something. We don't have the capability to do it ourselves, that's all.
Right.
The only other question I have on ARPA is in the green section, under the transfer station, it says, there's in red is rescind the obligation. Did we do that? Or do we have to do that?
If it's, yeah, because the obligation was for, if I can't remember, I think it was $6,000 that was in there, to be honest, if I remember correctly, to rescind the obligation to use ARPA for poured concrete walls, because after we got a quote, $6,000 wasn't gonna get us very far. And they don't wanna pour a partial wall and then try to connect into blocks and all that, so, it was $6,000, but if you rescind the obligation, then that frees up that officially, because I got a report by the 30th of April on ARPA, of our obligations and expenditures. So it would help, I guess, to de-obligate it.
Do we know it was 6,000?
Yes.
Then we need a motion from this board to rescind the obligation for $6,000 for the transfer station. Is that correct? Would someone so move that?
For the concrete wall.
The concrete wall for the transfer station?
I'll make a motion to rescind the $6,000 obligation for the ARPA funds for the concrete wall at the transfer station.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to rescind the obligation for the concrete wall, ARPA money for the concrete wall at the transfer station. Any discussion on the
Is
board?
that obligation reflected on here?
Not anymore. It's in here as $0.
I changed it to 0, but it was 6,000.
Okay, I understand now, okay.
Is there any discussion from the board? Anything from the public? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, your housekeeping is done.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else on ARPA before we move on?
Yeah, I just got one quick request for Mike. Can we get the interest earned on the?
Good night, everybody.
Updated, it's only 6 months old.
Yeah, I can, Bob.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know how much of a difference it's gonna make, but at least get it up to date, March 3rd, through March 30th would be nice.
You got it.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Good
for
night.
coming in.
Mike, I'll speak with you Wednesday.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sale of town equipment, that's all you, Mike.
I am gonna ask to move this because I just ran out of time to find all the, somewhere on my computer is the photos and all this stuff, and I searched, doing Control F and doing everything else, and I couldn't find it, so I'll have to, if I could just bring that back at the next meeting.
Let's move on to manager's report. I'm going to ask you to give us the Reader's Digest version, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Well, is there any questions of the board members, that, of anything that's in there first? Maybe that's the way to go.
I don't think I had any when I went through it.
I did not.
It
There
was
was
all
a-
pretty,
I've got one request.
go ahead, Bob.
Can we take care of page 1? I've seen this highlighted for the last 3 or 4 months. Consider using the ARPA funds to ensure the town has the $320,000 needed for the local match required by the grant. I assume it's the salt and sand shed. Is that what I'm talking about? No, it's done it.
That's the sidewalk, I think.
That's the
That's,
transportation alternative, that grant. Can
Yeah.
you do that, or?
yeah, well, on the ARPA funds, Mr. Chairman, there is, where do we, that's in there somewhere, isn't it?
It was.
It's all sand sheds there.
It's not on the sand shed, I think it's on the,
Sidewalk.
No, it's on the sidewalks. I'm just looking on the sheet where, is there money on there?
It's in the green, I think, here. Sidewalks, Parsons Hill, sidewalks, South Street to Main Street. It's the
Yeah, so-
last two.
South to Main is the small scale, which you guys approved, same with the Parsons Hills one. It's I think the large scale one was,
That's the main, that's the one on Main Street, and we took no action on that, and there's actually nothing here for that.
right, because we looked at what we had in the bank and what we'll have in the bank over the next 2 years. It's $45,000 a year, so that's another 90,000. We were on the cusp. We had the money in our pocket. That's why ARPA was used for the other ones, because of it's gonna sunset. So this one it doesn't look like we need.
So my suggestion is to take that action needed item off your manager's report.
Yeah, you're
Let's-
correct. Yep,
Do you agree with that, Bob?
yeah, that's what I'm kinda looking for, yeah.
Okay.
Do we do something, or just take it away?
I think we need to take it away at this point, because I think we have other methods to handle that problem. Well, it's not really a
Okay,
problem.
fair enough,
It's more of an opportunity.
okay.
The only thing I think on this number one, the TAP grant for the sidewalks was, I think I brought up to you, the town took out lighting at some point during this process. I don't know, it was $500,000 at the time, and that was part of the grant. It would be part of the total grant, so we're paying basically 20% of that. But with everything that's happened, hopefully I'm not beating a dead horse, but after the Honore Fleming stuff and people maybe feeling a little unsafe, is to have, I would love to see us have some discussion with the public and some kind of engagement about the lighting, because I think if you just stick lighting down there, it would be bad. Because if it's not tasteful or not in some, colonial form or something.
Like Pulteney's.
Yeah. So, but I think that lighting would be a great thing for along that new sidewalk. And of course, my brain thinks a little differently than probably most, but, you drive around places like New York State, and they have flags and memorial things hanging off their flag poles and stuff like that. Well, V-Trans won't let us put anything on the poles besides the flags that we have there, those US flags. But if you want to put anything else, and you want to hang wreaths, and you want to put stuff up there for decorations of different times of the year, we can't do it on utility poles, but we could on these too. So it's not just lighting. I mean, lighting is the security, the beautification of the town, but it serves other purposes as well, if we want to honor.
And we would have to pay 20% of the $500,000 cost.
Yeah.
Seems like a golden opportunity. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the lighting Pulteney has.
Yes.
Brandon,
think-
they did a really tasteful lighting in Brandon, I thought.
Once these sidewalks are in, I think we're gonna see a real uptick in the usage, just like we have in Hyattville. People are gonna really wanna get out and enjoy, especially we have such a beautiful downtown. People are gonna drive to Castleton Village to walk up and down the streets, just like they do in Pulteney.
That's what I've been doing in the mornings. I've been walking the village, and you'd be amazed at how many people are out walking their dogs or just walking up and down the road there.
And I think you're right about the safety, we have a college in town, and when it's dark out, 4 honor students look just like 4 hoods. You can't tell the difference, and with some lighting, people would feel more secure about that.
I just think would dress up our center point in the village area so much, and allow us to do other things. And we're doing these parades and the Christmas in Castleton and all these things, and we struggle right now we don't have any power. These poles would provide power. That would be part of the process of.
Can I interject for a minute, Mike?
Yeah.
Back when this was all presented to the town after the scoping study, I don't recall, was it Aldridge or Fuss O'Neill?
Fuss O'Neill.
One of the scenarios, they presented us with 4 options.
Yep.
And the board, it was either 3-2 or 4-1, selected option, I'm gonna call it 3.
Yeah.
And there was 4 options, and one of those options included this lighting. So if we could get them, who are still on retainer as project manager or whatever the right word is for this, to present the board or refresh the board's memory on what those 4 options were.
I have the option still. I mean, I have the report from them.
If you could provide that to the board again, because I didn't keep mine after the decision was made, so that you're aware of so you guys, particularly the 2 new members, but all 5 members, are aware of what the options were, the decision that was made by the board at that time.
Yeah, one of the options was from Sand Hill down, I
Yep.
think.
Yes, there was 4 different options.
Yeah, I think I was here for a couple of those meetings.
And we can at least know what the options were and what the decision was made, or what decision was made then. And if we can add to that, or, I agree with you, Mark, that the lighting going down through to East Pulteney is superb. I
So
really
nice.
like that. And I was kind of disappointed that wasn't included in this project, but I understood the reasons why. I won't say who.
The university probably isn't in a position to cost share that.
Probably not.
I won't say who the dissenting vote was, but anyways, I think we could at least
Pretty
look.
much guess.
If we could look at the options again, I think it would be worth doing.
I mean, one of the things I can do for the board is maybe what the cost would be without it being in the grant, if it was standalone, because again, you're dealing with these cross cutters that they call them, versus including the grant, because when you're only paying 20% of something, it's pretty enticing sometimes.
Pretty enticing.
Yeah, so-
80% off.
But I
It'd
called,
be 80% off of a ridiculous price though, too,
Well, we at least need to know how long, we at least need to know what the options are. And there were estimates in there for cost at the time, which are 2 years old. So, you gotta add a percentage to that, but you could come up with a reasonably accurate guess.
Yep.
So I have a question for could we move on from that issue?
I'm good.
Okay. I have a question on page 8. It's section 2, equipment, the update, it says it's request for quotes. I believe that would be for the power at the Crystal Haven pump station?
Where are we at? Yeah, we're
AJ.
sewer, we're sewer, yep, yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was for two things. One was power at the pavilion,
Right,
and then the other, and another quote we're getting to fix and repair the electrical stuff that's in the pump station.
okay, and you've done that, or you sent, you,
We sent it out.
okay. But it wasn't clear what exactly that was for in this
Okay.
report, and I was pretty sure I was gonna get a yes answer, but I wanted to be sure.
Yeah, I think below, right below it, Dick, is an explanation of what it's about. The next, the one for the 4th of April update. So I did break it down a little bit, but I found out more. As I learned through some of these things, I talked to Division of Fire Safety, and they're like, yeah, go away. Nothing for us. So I talked to OSHA, and they're like, yes, you're in the right house, come talk to us. And so we know what to look for and what to deal with the contractors now.
That's the only question I have at this point. Do you have anything more, Mark, or? Rob?
I
Bob?
don't think so, Dick, I think I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good.
Mary Lee, are you there? Do you have any questions for Mike? Then, go ahead, Mary.
Just to go along with the lighting in downtown, going from the village school across 8 o'clock at night or something, I can see where someone from the town meeting had asked about some kind of flashing crosswalk or something, and I, living at the other end of town, I didn't really understand what that was all about, but now that I patronize there at 8 o'clock at night or so, I see that because they're not pausing. You can't really see those crosswalks. So in this lighting, could you somehow squeak in some kind of safety lighting for the crosswalks? I know it wouldn't necessarily look historical.
They're in there.
That's in the sidewalk grant, right?
Yeah, they're in the grant, it's rapidly rotating flashing beacons and stuff, so that's part of it, yep.
Thank you.
That was in there. The other thing that's gonna happen with this project, if and when it happens, is there's gonna be more, the distance you gotta walk across the street is gonna be a lot less. There's actually gonna be peninsulas in the sidewalk to go out, and then parking in between the peninsulas and the traveled lanes will be more clearly identified.
Perfect, thank you.
So it'll be a lot safer to get across the road than it is now.
You know, Mr. Chairman, this is on page 10. I think everyone probably would want to know that the grader was inspected by, I think I shared an email with everyone. The grader was inspected by a Milton Cat rep. They did work on it, and they changed it's in the email, now I'm drawing a blank on what it was.
Differential lock solenoid.
Yeah, so yes, thank you.
I'm cheating.
So it's not leaking now. So hopefully that solved the problem. It's been out working. Matter of fact, I don't know if he's still on. Yeah, he's on. They've been using it, and I was told by the mechanic that he's been checking the oils and hasn't been losing oil, so that's a good thing.
That's a great thing.
So it's out working. And we met today, and we talked, the Public Works Committee, so that's, I won't steal their thunder if they want to say anything, but I think, no, I'll shut up. It's, that grader's fixed, let's put it that way.
Another 20 years out of her.
It's not on, the only thing
That's what we're hoping.
we brought today was that there's probably going to come a time where getting parts for something that starts getting that old might become more difficult. As far as the, rust and rot, and if we're taking care of it like we said we're going to, those things will kind of not become big issues. But I mean, it's a big piece of equipment. It's not like it's a bike. I think the fix has been made, and we can get up there and grade the roads for the residents and get that, potholes out of them and that kind of thing.
Anything else on the manager's report before we move on? I saw no purchase orders, is that correct?
There should have been one in there. She may.
Oh,
on the
it wasn't
outside
in our packet.
Yeah, it was late this afternoon. She asked me if I wanted them in there, and I said, please.
Oh, I see. Would you do the honors, Mark?
I make a motion that we approve purchase order 052083 to Lyle Welding for previously discussed repair of the town equipment trailer. That was originally replacing the suspension components and then additional rust repair that was found after that work was done for a total of $11,040.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the PO for the trailer repairs. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just got one question. Did we not approve the 7,500 of that $11,000 bill already? In other words, are we being redundant and doing it again?
We're not,
Or my mistake?
we did approve the 7,500. What we're doing now is approving the total of 11,040.
We approved the work being done, now we're approving the payment.
Okay, so we didn't approve the 7,500?
We approved the work, but there was no purchase order attached to that work when we approved it. So now what we're doing is approving the purchase order to pay the bill.
Okay, and I know the extra, because we talked about the extra that they found.
Yep.
So, okay, all right.
So this is housekeeping, Bob, is really what it amounts to.
Yep.
And so it's not in service yet, so everyone knows. It's got, this Thursday, it's going for an inspection at Avalanche in Fairhaven, and then it passes inspection, which it should after we just spent all that money on it, that it'll be in service.
Undercoated?
It's undercoated already. It's been painted and undercoated.
I stopped and looked at it last week, it was out in the town shed. And they did a really nice job on the repairs. It's probably gonna go 10 years.
Yeah. But Evan sent me a message saying that he had undercoated it and they had painted it, so needs inspection, and we'll be able to put the excavator on and move the excavator.
Is that good to you or Mike?
It goes back in the red folder.
The red folder.
I'll initial it just in case. But we did approve it. Or did we actually call the question?
You call the question.
Okay, all in favor of approving the purchase order?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we're gonna move on to warrants. Somebody do the honors, please?
I'll make a motion to approve, can I do them all?
Yes.
A motion to approve warrant 0422R for the sum of $1,351.64. Warrant number 0404 for $6,717. Warrant number 0411 for the sum of $38,152.11. Warrant number 0418 for the sum of $6,207.93. Warrant number 0422 for the sum of $65,093.17. Warrant number 0411P for the sum of $19,395.50. And warrant number 0418P for the sum of $18,423.36.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 So, Mr. Town Manager, we're gonna have 3 signatures on these. Do you need Bob or Mary Lee to come in?
If they can, within the next couple days, but since Mary Lee didn't make a motion on it, so it'd be Bob. Bob, you can be back in town?
I'll be back in town, I'll do it Wednesday morning.
So, do you want me to leave it in your mailbox?
Yes, please.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you asked a question earlier about the 24th.
Yes.
It's 9:30 on the 24th to meet up at the West Crystal Haven.
9:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So you should have 7, Rob, when you're all done.
Seven.
Okay, moving on. Select board comments. Mr. Steele, do you have anything?
I don't.
Mr. Brown?
I do. I would like just to throw this idea out. Sounds like I probably want to start a lot of ordinances. But I'd be interested in whether we should discuss an ordinance that would relate to soliciting, more particularly panhandling. This has been brought up in a lot of communities in Vermont, was recently struck down as being unconstitutional, that you're limiting a person's constitutional free speech to ask for help. And that's not my intention. I think that we may want to be proactive and have an ordinance that protects solicitors and panhandlers, as well as provide protection for the general public. So my ideas, and again, just doing a drive-by, would be to prohibit solicitation and panhandling within 100 yards of a four-way intersection, because that would pose a safety issue to the person doing it. Prohibited in town park and recreation properties, and prohibited within 100 yards of an ATM machine. That's pretty standard in ordinances, that when people are making financial transactions at an ATM, they deserve to feel secure. So 2 of those would be to protect the community. That would be prohibition on panhandling at town parks and rec and within 100 yards of an ATM, and to prohibit panhandling within 100 yards of any four-way traffic intersection for the protection of the person that was actually doing the soliciting.
If they can't do it at an intersection where people stop, where would they do it, though? That's the question. Is that part of that constitutional right stuff? Because otherwise, if you're standing outside the road arbitrarily somewhere, panhandling, I think that, I don't know if they would do that. That's,
Well,
I know what you're saying, but.
well, maybe they wouldn't.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that we have designated crosswalks at these intersections for the protection of pedestrians. And to have a person standing on the edge of the road, impeding traffic, trying to get motorists to stop is a safety hazard for them. And in many cases, the folks doing that may be suffering from a mental illness or not making good life decisions at that point. And I think that we would be protecting them by keeping them out of high traffic areas. You know, we have places where you can turn right on red, and that could be a hazard. So I don't know where they would do it, but not in those three areas.
I think there's, not sure, I mean, what I can do is look and see if VLCT has a model policy on this, because that's been vetted through attorneys that way. If the board wants me to do that. And then the other thought is state highways, like you see the one that somebody is standing at the end of the Route 4 bypass, that's state highway. Well, Route 30 and Route 4A and Route 30 are state highway, so they may already have something that says you can't do that. I can do that research and find out, because that is state highway there.
Would we have control over that if it's state highway?
Nope.
So we wouldn't, even if we had that ordinance, we wouldn't be able to stop them from doing it at Four Corners?
Not there likely. I mean, that's why we can't do much in any state right of way or, stuff, and that's all state right of way right there. But they already may have something that says that guy that stands at the end of the Route 4 bypass, I mean, maybe he's not supposed to be there. I don't really know, but I can certainly look up, get a hold of somebody at the state level and find out what their policies are, if they have any.
I mean, I think that would be probably the major one that you're concerned about, would be the Four Corners, right?
Well, I could see
It
some.
would be. I mean, I know this hasn't been an issue in our community yet.
But it has the potential to
It
become
has the
one.
potential. It was happening in Fairhaven last week. And, I think that we could, be proactive and make sure
We're a
nobody gets hurt.
one-stoplight- We're a one-stoplight town here, so if they're gonna set up, that's probably gonna be a,
Yeah, I don't wanna limit anybody who is in need. I don't wanna limit their ability to ask for help. And we have social services in our community like Castleton Cares. There's resources, but I think it's just a danger to have people standing on a state highway, potentially impeding traffic.
I mean, even at East Hubbard Road and Route 4A, that's an intersection has state right of way, and you got the park and ride. I don't think people want people panhandling with them.
Well, let's get those two questions answered first. What, if anything, does exist from VLCT, and what, if any, regulations exist for the state highways that are in our town? And then we'll move on from there. Your point's a good one, Mark. I've got the same concerns you probably do about just what would be appropriate.
Right, we have to balance the needs, the rights that people have to ask for assistance, along with the health and welfare of the people that live in our community. And I don't think that, I think we want to be very careful about the kind of community that our wives and daughters live in and where they travel on foot, and to make sure they're safe. I think that we want to be careful about our park and recreation property. And we want to be, people are using an ATM machine, getting money, they need to feel safe. That's all. I don't want to limit anybody's ability to ask for help. I just want to make sure that people are safe.
And we'll follow up with the board.
Please do.
Those two things.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mark?
That's it.
Bob?
Yeah, I've got three things, and I'll make them quick.
Okay.
This memo that was left in our boxes, to the Castleton Town Manager and Select Board.
Yep.
It says from the Castleton Taxpayer Association, Friends of the Taxpayers. Is that a legit organization, or is it just an individual using that title as a fictitious name?
My understanding, talking with the individual, is that it's kind of like Friends of Rec. It's a group of people that have expressed an interest, and they have a spokesperson like Mary McIntyre. They're not as formal. They're not formal like Friends of Rec became. So,
okay,
it's in my understanding, and I know some of the names in there, Bob. So I know it's not one person.
Okay, are we gonna entertain that at a future select board meeting?
I don't think at this point we really should address those items. I mean, didn't come prepared to discuss that, Bob, but I think that they're getting into the level of micromanaging, and perhaps we should discuss this offline at some point, you and I.
Okay, I didn't want to do it tonight. I just wanted to know if we were going to discuss it as a word in the future or whatever. That's my first thing.
My understanding was this is not an actual, honest-to-God organization with a board of officers and a 501c3 status or anything like that.
Pretty sure my wife looked them up and they weren't registered with the state in any manner.
Yeah, they're not.
They're not.
They're not.
I think Fairhaven has a group like that too.
And they're welcome to their opinion, and they're certainly welcome to voice them. But I don't think that their voice should be heard any more than anybody else in this town.
I think they have a question to the select board that they should come before the select board with their
Correct.
questions like anybody else does, not secretly throw a piece of paper in somebody's mouth.
Because I have no idea who it is.
And we're pretty early in this whole project to be able to answer all these things. I think we've been right up front about that, you know, we're in the infancy of trying to create a rec center that would benefit all the people in the community. And, we're gonna try really hard to make that work for the community, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, but we don't have all these answers.
I don't think
right
we
now.
can move very fast until we officially own the whole thing either, so that's probably one of the biggest things.
Well,
Yep.
we're getting closer to doing
Yes, I
that.
understand that, but until we officially can say it's 100% ours, we can't do anything.
Okay.
What's next, Bob?
Let me move on to my second thing. Just noticed in the agency natural resources in regards to, I'm finding some violations up to our transfer station. I'm not here to hammer on you, Mike, but I'm disappointed that wasn't made notified of this. I could have taken this to the solid waste district board meeting there the first Wednesday of this month, and I would have thrown it in front of them and saying, what is this all about, folks? You know, very disappointed that solid waste district isn't taking some responsibility for this.
Well,
I don't think that.
They did, Bob. Just so you know, I got a call from Mark Shea reaching out to us and whatever they could do. But there was a little bit of a miscue because they did the inspection on the 22nd of February. And then they said they sent it out by registered mail. We have no record of it being logged in the town of Castleton because they sent it to a post office box that we no longer use. So we didn't see it until that later date. And I opened the letter up on the 5th of April.
Yeah.
So there.
Oh, okay, 'cause it says we received it in March 21st, I think it says we received it or was sent out, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have no record of it.
Back what I said.
Because
Okay.
Christine, when mail comes in, they log it in, and there's no record of us ever getting anything by certified mail, and so I think I was the 5th of April, I opened it up, and I immediately I called Eric Brown at A&R, talked to him, and he was all good with it, and I talked to Mark Shea. Mark Shea talked to our operators, and we've resolved the issues. But as soon as Mark did reach out, so it wasn't like asking what we needed or offering help. So the guys up there have watched the video. They've labeled everything. There's pictures in there of what they've done, and the 2 financial pieces that were in there have been answered. So we should be out of the doghouse, but this is the 3rd time we've received a violation on electronic waste, and it's been 3 different operators. And so they have a checklist now that they go by every day, so they're checking things off, and one of the things is to make sure there's no electronic waste laying on the ground when they leave at the end of the day. But they turn the bin so they can see it from the operation shack now, so that people can't hide it around the corner. So we're doing what we can to help mitigate the secrecy of it all when people don't tell us they're putting stuff up there. And just so happens that day the inspector shows up and there's I think it was a printer or something on the ground.
Okay.
Any other day it's not there.
And I just want to reconfirm with Mark if he can attend the select board, the Rutland County Solid Waste District meeting there. I think it is Wednesday, May 1st. It's the first Wednesday in May.
That's what, when we spoke last time, it was the first Wednesday in May at 6:30. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And can you
That's
send
correct.
me the Zoom link? I'm gonna try and be there in person, but if not, I'll absolutely be there in Zoom.
I will do that.
Okay.
I will absolutely do that.
Yep, one way or another, I will be there.
Okay, Mark, thank you.
And if you have a minute, give me a call, just give me a brief on, what will be going on.
Absolutely.
I do have one thing. Can we just make sure you reach out to Tom Kearns sooner than later on the exact time and date of that?
Already done.
Okay.
He was on the email string, and he said I can be there, so we're good.
Okay.
Anything else, Bob?
No, but that meeting up to the Kearns property, that can only be attended by 2 select board members?
It can be attended by all of us if we, it can be attended by all of us without warning, as long as we take no action as a board. Or don't discuss any board.
Okay, I'd like to.
As long
Okay.
as long
I'd
as
like
we,
to attend that too.
as long as we take no action, we can all be
Okay,
there.
so it's Wednesday morning at 9:30?
Yes.
Okay,
And that whole thing, as you recall, when we researched that thoroughly, as far as violating or potentially violating the open meeting law. And as long as we do not take any action that would be a normal business of this board, or don't take any action, period, we will not be in violation of the open meeting law.
okay.
I have nothing. Mary Lee, is Mary Lee able to speak?
She's on, she said she can hear us, but we can't hear her. I've been chatting back and forth with her. Mary Lee, if you can hear us, do you have any questions? Is she muted? No, you're not muted, so just can't hear you.
Well, I'm going to presume it's no, and if she texts you before we close this meeting, we'll give her a chance to speak.
There was, Mr. Chairman, you had mentioned earlier today that there was something that you were going to bring up during select board comment.
It's my turn now. Okay, so Rob Steele and I met with the town manager earlier today, and we were looking at the needs of the town long-term for capital equipment and capital improvements to infrastructure. And we feel that it would be appropriate to discuss this at a public meeting, a separate public meeting, and invite the town to come to that meeting so they can understand what where we are, what we need to do, where we need to be, say, 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And in order to do that, I don't think we should do that at a regular meeting. I think we should do that at a special meeting. And I think that meeting needs to take place sometime before the end of the fiscal year, but we need to give our town manager time to do some research, and I need to do some research as well prior to having that meeting. So I'm thinking early June. Does that make sense to you, Mike? So I don't necessarily need to make the decision on when we're having that meeting today, or we don't need to make that decision, but we need to think about it and look at your calendars. And the next regular select board meeting, I think we should set a place and time to do that, or this could be the place, but we need to set a date and time to do that.
Would you agree to have it before the first regularly scheduled meeting, just in case at that point you want to bring anything forward to the public? From the special meeting that you might want to take action on or anything else?
In June?
Yeah, so it'd be I don't know what the first meeting in June is, second Monday in June.
Well, what I'm saying, okay.
Could you do it before that meeting?
Do you think we'd have better attendance in September?
Well, some of it's budget concerns.
I think we
Should be done before then.
I think we should start
The planning phases of the budget.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to having another one at that point in time, because that's before the budget actually is put together. But I think that we need to have this conversation, my opinion is we should start this conversation sooner rather than later.
And we talked about resolutions, Mark, because before the end of June, if there is a surplus in a certain department's budget, that this capital, like vehicle capital improvements, or capital replacement stuff, that you could do an encumbrance and carry money over to help resolve this, that has to be done before the fiscal year ends. So it'd have to be done, you'd have to finalize the resolution before the end of June, so the second meeting in June. But we've been doing them like the last 4 years. And I can actually send those out to the select board members that weren't here at that time. You could see what the resolutions, what they said and how they were used, the money was used, if you'd like me to send those to you.
I would.
Okay.
So the first select board meeting in June is on May 10th. The select board meeting where I would like to set a date for this special meeting is May 13th. So if you could all look at your calendars and decide somewhere between May 28th and June 7th as a date we can set for this special meeting. I would propose, based on what Mike's request, that we zero in on June 3rd, if that works for everybody, but we don't necessarily have to set that date tonight, unless we can. I could attend June 3rd.
What day is it?
It's a Monday. It's the first Monday in June.
And we don't have to warn it till the day
All right.
prior, so, it's because it's a special meeting.
Well, I think the more notice we give the public, the better.
But I mean, I guess what I meant to say is if it had a last minute change, we could move things around. But if you're gonna warn it to the public, this gives us plenty of time to do so.
So, Mark, can you do that?
I can.
Bob, do you have any idea if you're gonna be available on June 3rd?
I don't right at the moment, Dick. I'm on the road. I can find out when I get home.
All right, well then, let's leave it as tentative for now, and then when Mary Lee has a chance to chime in as well.
She said I can attend, so I just wrote June 3rd question mark, so I'm just waiting for her to respond, just to verify.
So, we're gonna put that as tentative, and we don't have to firm that up until the next select board meeting. And that's when we'll warn it and make sure the public knows what we're doing and what we plan on accomplishing. But it's specifically the capital reserve accounts for highway, fire, and police, and also the funding of specifically paving in general, but, or there may be other things.
Explained to the town.
Yeah, there's other things beyond that, but that's gonna be the big ticket, the four big things.
Mary Lee said yes, she could do June 3rd.
Okay, so Bob, we'll firm this up when you're back in town. Okay?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, that's all I got for select board comments.
The other comment I would make about that meeting, do you think it would be helpful to start it earlier? I remember when, going back a few years before this building was built, and there had been several votes on a new town office, and the seniors in the community had not been in favor of it. And I spoke to Mrs. Riley one day about that, and she goes, well, I think that a lot of the seniors feel that they have been excluded from the process. And I said, but there's been 3 informational meetings. She goes, yeah, it's 7 o'clock at night, and it's too late.
I'm not opposed to doing it earlier.
You know, I'm just wondering if,
I would say
And
you
I'm just
couldn't go
throwing it out
any
as an
earlier
idea.
than 6 because
if it was 6 o'clock,
then you're gonna lose the people at work.
you think 6 is too early?
No, I would think six would be the
Right.
earliest you could go.
Yeah, if that would be a compromise, to get as many folks as possible.
I'm not opposed to that at all. So let's say 6 o'clock on the 3rd, and Bob, you're gonna check your schedule when you get back?
And I could ask her too if she thinks that would make a difference. I mean, she really does have her finger on the pulse of the seniors in the
Well,
community.
let's just agree to do that, and then
Okay.
you can also ask Joanne what her opinion is, whether that's gonna, it's a valuable piece of information to have in the future. Because I certainly don't want to exclude any group of people.
Right.
Mary Lee said 6 is fine for her too.
Okay, so we're saying 6 on the 3rd, unless, you can't be here, Bob, and then we'll try to figure something out. Okay?
Oh, no, if I can't be there, I'll do my best to call in. Don't change it because of me.
Okay. All right.
So I'd
But-
say it's final then.
And if you want to get with me before that, just to find out find out hard numbers,
Absolutely.
feel free to do that when you get back in town.
In
Sounds good.
the mailboxes, I'll put a copy of that paving thing too, and I got the police report stuff from the chief to put in the Mary Lee's and Bob's mailbox as well.
Okay, any more select board comments before we move on? All right, action items, the only thing I've got is that I've got to get with Rob Steele and we got to figure out about a couple of different things on the, short-term rental agreement. What else is there for action items that we need to do? I mean, Mike's got his list, but he always has a list when we leave these meetings, right?
Yep.
Nothing? All right, do we need an executive session for anything? What's it for?
Real estate.
Would you make a motion to go into executive session for real estate, please?
Do I need to say the time?
It hurt, it
Well,
doesn't, it makes Allison
Well,
hate.
before we do that, I mean, Mary Lee's on here, and I can give you an update on what I know about the village school
Oh, cool.
and Sand Hill, but Mary Lee, I'm not sure if she has to recuse herself from the Sand Hill thing.
Well, then we'll have two executive sessions. We can have two executive sessions. Just come out, we're gonna go back in real quick.
Right.
When they change topics.
So we'll do the school first then?
Sure.
So we're going in for real estate?
Correct.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session at 9:26 for real estate.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded, we go into executive session for real estate. All in favor?
With me?
Aye.
With the board and the town manager?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.